Alrighty, welcome everyone and welcome OG to today's interview. Today we're going to talk about something that isn't talked about very often, and that's about contracts and the structuring of intelligent automation deals. OG, before we begin and we introduce some new and novel ways of paying that take away risk for your clients, would you mind
Yeah.
telling people who you are? Give us a little introduction and how long you've been in the business, and just generally tell us a little bit about you, sir.
Yes. So thanks for having me today. That's exciting to talk to you today. This topic is really important, and definitely this is something that people want to know. So my name is Olivier. People call me OG. Based in France. I've been doing automation for many years. Large scale type of automation across all kinds of industries, all kinds of departments using all kinds of tools. So what is really specific about the way I look at things is I really have a technology agnostic way of looking at this topic, this intelligent automation topic and ecosystem. And I really want to focus on the business impact and understanding everything related to results and outcome around intelligent automation. So I typically like to downplay the technology side of the conversation and highlight the business benefit of doing intelligent automation.
I really like that because everybody gets so excited about the technology, they forget that the reason the technology is there is to deliver a business outcome. But
Exactly.
today, why I asked to talk to you is a little while ago, you did a poll and you talked about something called outcome-based contracts.
Yes.
Would you mind explaining what outcome-based contracts are? And then are these the industry norm? Because it's only the second or third time I've heard about them. And I think they should really interest our audience and anyone investing in intelligent automation.
Yes. So let me answer the first question, which is the second one you asked, which is it the norm? It's definitely not the norm. It's actually a almost like a secret, and it's very interesting to understand why this is kept as a secret, right? So typically, when you work with a provider who's a partner, whether it's software, whether it's service, you typically have a couple of options. So you do, the typical T&M, times and material, or you do, project scope type of. So you put in the scope of work. Outcome-based contract is basically committing on result, committing on outcome. So in context of intelligent automation, I take a business process. I'm saying that I will automate it. I'm saying that I will be able to achieve some, let's say, efficiency gain, to be able to increase the speed, to be able to, fix a number of errors and improve the quality. Well, I am going to commit that I will deliver those results for you, Mr. Client, right? So this is the concept of committing on outcome, which means committing on result, which means committing on business impact. And very few people are willing to do that for a number of reasons that we can discuss.
So, one of the reasons that I've seen over the years why intelligent automation hasn't succeeded in organizations is that there is no risk on the supplier. Time and materials, the longer it takes, the more they get paid.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a risk here for that supplier, I recognize, because the business will always know more than the supplier. But
Hmm.
businesses are put off because of the risk of cost and because of the risk of failure. But it now sounds like companies like yourself are taking all of the risks. That sounds kind of attractive to me as a buyer. So why would you take the risks, having seen all of the things that you and I have seen over the years, where businesses worry, where vendors normally win, where there's a lot of anger and angst put up between vendor and supplier? Why would you take all this risk? It fascinates me.
Yeah. So this is to me it's becoming obvious. Let me explain, right? So at the beginning of a new technology, we don't know how this technology work. We need to play with the technology. We need to do a whole bunch of POC, POV. We need to basically test, and obviously because it is some sort of innovation, there's a lot of risk of not delivering results. Okay, that's normal. It's a new disruptive technology that you embed in your ecosystem, and therefore, you don't really know if it works. But we are not, in 2015 anymore. We are in 2022. We have been doing a whole bunch of automation. We have a certain level of maturity around this space. We have, more importantly, what I call use cases or success cases, which is basically things we have done over and over across multiple clients, multiple industries, multiple environments, and we know it works. So the concept here is, okay, we as service provider, we start to basically have a lot of experience in that space, understand the technology, understand the risk, and it is about time that we start sharing this risk with the client. Today, the way it works, we're expecting the client to do, at upfront investment, or at the bare minimum, commit to monthly type of subscription, right? But there is never any commitment on, is this going to deliver? Is this going to achieve a return on your investment, Mr. Client? I think we are now at a point where, it is about time that we as service provider are able to de-risk the client and basically simply share. So I am confident enough, because I've done it enough times, to basically tell you that I can do this and I can deliver that, and therefore I'm willing to commit in a contract that is an outcome based type of contract.
I kind of like the balancing of that. It almost feels a little bit of the risk is weighted against you, but the way you're describing that is sounds very fair. And companies who want to be in business with each other need to get that win-win balance happening. It can never be
Yes.
lose-win and win-lose. That just doesn't work long term. So, OG, tell me a little bit about the basic construct then of an outcome-based contract. What's involved? How do you go about setting it up? How do you go about measuring it? What parts of the contract are different when it comes to an outcome-based contract?
Yes. So I think so. Let me go back to what you said, right? Establishing win-win with the client is really, really important. This is a mindset that needs to be built inside the contract, because again, you share the risk. You potentially, by the way, you can even go as far as sharing the gain. So you can, have an extreme form of an outcome-based contract, which is a gain share model, where you basically share the benefit. You share, if it's savings, you share the savings in that case. uh, Back to your question. What is really, really important when you are doing this type of contract is to really understand and baseline correctly the environment. And this typically requires having access to the data and processing the data. So data science against the data is absolutely critical for an outcome-based model. I give you a practical example. Let's say I am a finance department and I have a system of records and I'm tracking all the work I'm doing there, or I am an IT department, whatever. All this data needs to be analyzed. Very often, this is very difficult. So, not everyone can do it because the data is typically either unstructured or semi structured. So, you need to apply some ML algorithm to do some data science against it, and then you turn that into a structured set of data. You make the data liquid. You understand very clearly the nature of the work in this data, and then you basically are able to identify an addressable space inside this data set, and you basically are able to map this to well-known use cases in your automation library of let's say services, and you map this. And once you map this, you understand the data, this blind spot of data, this dark data. You turn it into something that you can manage. You understand the addressable space. You map it to existing use cases, and then you come up with an opportunity that you can fairly trust, right? And the key point here is the level of confidence is going to be high enough so that you can say, hey, I understand your environment, your tools, your data, your processes. I have analyzed all that. I have baselined it, I have mapped it to what I've done before, and I can tell you with a certain level of confidence that is high enough that I will automate, this, and that, which will translate to this type of outcome, and I'm so comfortable doing it that I'm willing to commit on it.
Alrighty, I'm still digging in a little bit more because it sounds fantastic if I'm a buyer because you're taking the risk, you're doing the discovery, you're pointing out what I'm going to get.
Yes.
How do you stop yourself being the fall guy, OG, you and your company IAC? Do you put in stage gates? Do you put in exit clauses based on discovery? Do you put in cost incurred to a point in time? How do you protect you is my big question.
Yes. So this is very important because, as I said before, it has to be win-win. It has to remain win-win. And it's really important that when you build the contract, you structure it in such a way that, if something is changing, that is, unexpected, then there's a need to basically correct that, right? So number one, uh, we've done it a few times. We've done automation a few times, actually many times, and we kind of understand the typical pitfalls. We kind of understand the typical risk that we are going to have, whether it is, people related, process related, technology related, or data related, right? So we kind of understand the risk we are getting into. When you build such a contract, you have baseline, you have committed on a certain, let's say, moving the needle on certain amount of KPIs and delivering, outcome that you can measure results. And you put that in your contract, then obviously, you need to have in your contract the possibility that if the rules of the game are changing, then you need to be able to readjust. So let me give you an example. If you've done some analysis against a certain type of activity and there is a certain baseline of work and you are committing on a certain improvement, let's say if the company you are working with is suddenly going to acquire another company and suddenly the baseline is going to double because there's double the work, right? For whatever reason, an acquisition or amazing growth, right? There's a need to have in the contract the possibility to consider that when there is a deviation that is bigger than a certain amount, then you can reconsider and you can potentially rebaseline. The goal here is simply to protect both sides of the contract so that if there is any material change to the environment, any material change to the data, any material change to the baseline, that you can basically reassess the contract and make sure it remains win-win. At the end of the day, this is not a big deal. It sounds a bit complex, but it's not a big deal. It's not about trying to build up complexity. It's simply about being able to frame what are the key area that can potentially change along the lifetime of the contract and be able to reassess, rebaseline this as needed. Most of the time, this never happens, meaning you frame it, you baseline it, you improve it, you deliver the result, you stay within the same context. You don't have to tweak the contract. This is happening on an exceptional basis.
That's interesting for me because I've always seen, been on even an internal or an external side, that there does need to be really clear contract terms and specific digital KPIs because the tech environment can change, new screens, new software, and that can happen between contract sign off, contracted delivery, and whatever else. And then, you as an individual, you can't crystallize the savings, only the customer can do that. So, who decides the success factors and who decides how they're measured in this contract so it results in a win win for both parties?
Yes. So this is a very important point, right? Outcome-based contract does not mean that you're going to be able to go to a gain share model all the time. Let me explain what that means. As you said, only the client can materialize the savings. You as a provider can deliver a certain amount of, let's say, efficiency gain. So let me be very direct, right? I have let's say a team of 1,000 people. I optimize, I automate, and I suddenly, release, meaning put 200 people, 20% of the work people on the bench. Okay. So what you can commit as a provider is to put 200 people on the bench. This is an outcome. I have effectively automated a certain activity, a certain business process, a certain department, and I have effectively free up resources. What the client is going to do with those resources that are now on the bench is up to him. They can be, released, so you can move the dollar to the bottom line. They can be redeployed to another department where you need help. They can be also utilized to handle a growing business, meaning you can handle more activity with the same amount of people. The client will decide what they do with the benefit. What you are committing in an outcome based contract is I will deliver those 200 people, I will release them from their current activity. So only 800 are doing the work. And then I give you those people and you can reuse them the way you want. This is an outcome based contract. Now, if I am able to go as far as, let's say it is not an operation with people, it is a contractual agreement with a third party provider, and you're able to drop the bill there. So instead of, let's say, releasing 200 people, you drop the bill from, let's say, 10 million to 8 million. You have saved effectively $2 million. In that case, because it's well framed, it's very clear, very well, let's say, very well defined. Then in that case, you can go all the way to gain share, which means, hey, Mr. Client, if I drop your bill, then we can share the gain. But if you cannot have this kind of, very crisp, clear, well-defined, and touchable, tangible savings, then you will only do outcome-based and only commit on a certain amount of efficiency, a certain amount of KPI improvement. It is still, a commitment on the result, but it does not always translate all the way to the dollars if the client has to make a number of decisions that you cannot action on your side, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. So, round off then. Tell me some of the. We've heard of some of the positives for a business, and we've hinted at things as well about maybe some of the negatives. That things can change. We need to get it right in the contract. But what would you summarize, Olivier, if you were telling a company, here's the pluses and here's the minuses? What would you be telling them?
Yes. So first of all, if you are the customer, there is no minus. And I still don't understand why, customers are not demanding that more often. Maybe because they don't know, because maybe they are told it's too difficult to set up. There's this idea of it's very complex, it cannot be done, we cannot go there. But if I am a customer, I would love this idea of, sharing the risk and basically potentially, sharing the gain, right? It makes total sense. As a provider, uh, what are the risks? What are the cons, right? First of all, you have to start taking risk. Maybe before you did not. Maybe before you were in a T&M model, the longer it takes, the more money you make. Now you have to really deliver, and this is a risk. If you don't deliver, you basically, potentially don't get paid or paid a portion. And by the way, there's also software providers you can see that are also starting to do that. They are also starting to guarantee and potentially even payback if the software does not deliver. So it's something that is starting to happening. So risk that you don't deliver. Also, if you are in a true 100% outcome based, potentially even gain share, cash flow is typically the problem. Let me explain. If you say I'm going to get paid only at the end when I deliver results, or I'm going to get paid only if I deliver result, then you basically have to put cash flow here in the mix, meaning you have to pay people to do some work and you don't know 100% if they are going to deliver results. So cash flow can be a problem. Many companies don't want to impact their cash flow. So risk of not being paid and cash flow. And this is significant amount of risk. So you need to be very comfortable and confident that you have done it before and you are going to deliver. Otherwise, you don't want to go there. That's why many people don't want to go there. In terms of what are the pros, right? You instantly establish trust with your provider, and you basically make it so easy. As a client, you make it so easy to buy more from the provider, and as a provider, you make it so easy for the client to buy more from you, because at the end of the day, the risk is limited. Their cash, let's say, investment is very limited, especially if you on top of that leverage the tool they have in the environment, the investment they have already made in the past. Then the client will want to buy more from you, because it's so easy to do it and not many people are doing it. And I would say another point is, depending on how you construct your contract, if you articulate well with your client that you are going to take a lot of risk, you can be rewarded quite a lot. It's normal. High risk, high reward. Low risk, low reward, right? So in terms of pros, trust is established straight away, because you do that and you stick your neck out. And two, uh, if you do a good job, if you deliver, if you potentially over deliver against what you committed, the benefit, meaning the overall contract, can be very interesting. I'm very transparent here. I want people to understand how it works.
I really like it. I really like it. And I wish more people were doing it, because for years, I think this industry has struggled because it has been a lose-win for the client, where organizations have come in and promised a great deal. The clients paid out a great deal of money and they haven't actually received a great deal in return. So now to hear that not only is cash flow positively impacted, because I'm not going to give you any cash while you're trying to work this out, but if we do establish that win-win relationship, you've taken the risk, the real risk up front, and therefore that's de-risked it for me as a buyer. And if you're only going to get paid if you deliver results for me, then that for me makes total sense. I'm really attracted to this because I want to digitally transform, as do other firms. It's that cost, that risk, that thing that the vendor always wins that really puts me off. So I'm delighted to hear it, Olivier, and I wish other companies were doing this. And I'm the same as you. I think if we win with our clients, then our clients are going to come back to want more and they'll recommend us more to other people. I've always believed that and cannot think of anything other than that. So I'm delighted you're thinking in those terms as well. Well,
Yeah.
look, I wish you every success, and I wish every client who deals with you every success as well. It sounds like they're getting a fantastic deal. A really interesting, really innovative model. I'm delighted that you agreed to be interviewed today, Olivier, because I can't wait to get this out to the intelligent automation and business community, because I think this should interest a lot of people. And I recommend people reach out and have a conversation with you to discuss this a little bit more. Really, thank you. Thanks very much for that indeed.
Thanks for your time today. Thanks.